Welcome to the Philip Wiley Show. Take a look behind the curtain of professional hacking and hear compelling discussions with guests from diverse backgrounds who share a common curiosity and passion for challenges and their job. And now, here's your host, offensive security professional, educator, mentor, and author, Philip Wiley.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Philip Wiley Show. I'm very excited to have my friend Tanisha Martin joining today. If you don't know of Tanisha founded Black Girls Hack, which also runs the SquadCon conference, which we're really excited to get into because it's one of the big purposes for this podcast is kind of get word out to people that are going to be attending Hacker Summer Camp or maybe give you a reason to attend for the first time. But they did some amazing things putting that conference together last year, and we'll get into that. So welcome to the show, Tanisha.
Thank you so much for having me, Philip. This is exciting.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. Always a pleasure to get to chat with you.
It's not
enough. It's not enough, but an honor and a pleasure when we do get to talk. So before we get started into what we plan to discuss today, if you wouldn't mind kind of sharing your hacker origin story.
Absolutely. So I have been in the cyberspace for probably about 5 years now. I've been in the technology space for probably about 20. I went to school for electrical and computer engineering, and I found that I really liked breaking software. So I've spent like the last couple of decades basically breaking software and terrorizing developers of the world. And at some point I realized, that I felt like I had reached the top of my craft and as far as software testing and auditing and quality assurance. And I decided like, hey, I wanted to start to transition over into cybersecurity. And I felt like ethical hacking was a natural extension of, my QA and software testing background in terms of, I'm still looking for vulnerabilities. I'm still trying to break software. But now it has a larger context in terms of, organizational security. And not just making sure that the application works as it should, but then also that it's secure and it, protects people's information. So I actually joined one of our friends, Mary Galloway's Women's Cyber Jitsu, 10 plus years ago and started taking classes. And then I was doing, try Hack Me and Hack the Box, also some Cover 6 Solutions classes, just trying to get my skills up. And over time, as I've become more comfortable, I just started pen testing web application mobile. So I've been doing that for the past 5 years at this point. And I really like it, mostly terrorizing the developers of the world still.
Awesome. I love the story. And one of the things is just, especially for any of us that's been around for a while, IT related or cybersecurity, I really like your background of getting into IT because that was one of the more traditional routes. Because remember back when not a lot of people going into technology or IT or whatever, there wasn't like the computer science stuff. It was the MIS degrees or electrical engineering. So it's kind of interesting to hear that a lot of people hear that may not sound so traditional, but back in our day, getting started out, it was traditional.
Yeah, and that's actually what my degree was. So my undergraduate, I went to Carnegie Mellon. It was electrical and computer engineering. So it was like basically both the electrical piece. But I promise you, I have not dealt with a resistor or, had to solder anything or, done anything electrical since college. So I've just used the computer engineering part of that degree program. But I think it served me well. It gave me a foundation of what I needed to know, to do the software testing. And I enjoyed breaking software better than I ever enjoyed making it. I always enjoyed troubleshooting and figuring out why it wasn't right, figuring out, what are edge cases, what did I miss? That to me was always much more interesting.
Yeah, I think that's cool too, because that's anyone ever asked me, how to become a pen tester, where to start. And one of the things I think is really great is if you are a developer or you're a QA person testing software, you're kind of doing that already. There's just a little more training to that opposed to someone that's, I want to be a network pen tester. I've been doing this. It seems, it's just, in my opinion, a better way in if you find something that kind of builds off the experience you have. So, I mean, that wasn't that far of a reach for you to learn how to do that.
It wasn't, but you would have to probably send a letter and tell like all the employers that, because when I initially started transitioning, they were like, well, we'd really like you to have some hands-on experience, and I'm like, what do you mean? I've been terrorizing developers for the past 20 years at this point, like, and but they wanted you to have like hands-on experience, like actually doing the pen testing, and they wanted to be able to see that. And that was one of the things that I noticed about just my education and the degrees that I've gotten since then, is that they don't do a lot in terms of hands-on training, but jobs want you to have hands-on training. So it's just been interesting, just looking at the state of cybersecurity education. Especially for people who are trying to, hey, I just go to school, I get my degree, I come out and get a job, right? What happens when that degree doesn't help you to get that job at that point, when they want you to have more than what the degree has prepared you for? And that's part of what we're trying to do at Black Girls Hack, is to give folks the hands-on experience to be able to get a job in the field.
Yeah. Speaking of education, there needs to be education for people that are hiring. Just some of the job descriptions you see, and you've seen the one meme going around for a while. There's actually someone that created a language which some company wanted them to have X amount of years, and so I created the language, and it hasn't been around that long.
I saw that, and you'll have people who'll be like, "Hey, I want you to have 20 years experience with ChatGPT or with LLMs," and it's like, what do you mean? Like, this came out like 2 years ago. Like, why? So it's just been interesting, watching that. But I really think that the HR professionals of the world are just trolling at this point, because when I talk to hiring managers, they'll be like, hey, this is what we're looking for, this is what we want to see. But the reality is that most companies have like ATS systems that are doing the screening before they ever gets to a hiring manager. So there's 3 layers of probably of people in between, me submitting my resume through the front door and then actually getting to someone who's hiring. So it's just interesting to see how that'll work out, as time goes on.
So what are some recommendations you make for people that are trying to get into the industry to kind of overcome some of those HR barriers?
One, I'd say, make sure that you've got hands-on skills, so that you can, talk about, what you've done to supplement your education, and how you've done so. I tell people to basically try to develop a portfolio, whether that be for development or whether that be for like, hey, I've got reports that I've written for pen tests that I've done, or whatever the case may be, put something together that which shows that you're doing outside of your day-to-day job, especially if you are looking to get into an industry that you don't have experience, for before. And I'd say, talk to people who are in the industry, see what skills you need to know, see what you need to be highlighting on your resume. Because again, I think that there's a disconnect, and you have to differentiate yourself amongst the probably hundreds of other people who are applying for the same job.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Some of the things that really, that and networking is such a big deal nowadays, because if you can get your resume in the hands of someone that doesn't have to go through that system, you have a higher likelihood of getting an interview.
Yeah, I don't know what the numbers are, but I know a lot of folks who go to get jobs, get them, through the side door as opposed to the front door, right? Most people are not like actually going to the front door, putting in an application and waiting for them to call them. It's like, hey, I know someone who's there. Can you refer me? Can you get this in front of a hiring manager? Can you, and I think that networking piece is important, not just for, knowing about the jobs that may not necessarily be on the market for a long time, but then also I think in terms of, hey, knowing your value, knowing your net worth in terms of, what is it that you're asking for in terms of salary, for example, right? Because I think that, those are the disconnects. What is the value of, somebody with your skill set?
Yeah. So on that subject, do you have any good recommendations for salary negotiations?
Oh, absolutely. I tell folks to talk to somebody who is in that position, and have a frank dialogue. A lot of times people will say, oh, it's not polite to talk about, that's what folks, my generation, we're told that it's not polite to talk about your salary. But I think that the problem there is that, you don't know what your worth is. You don't know how much you should be getting paid. and especially people who are trying to transition from another industry. I've seen people who are like, hey, I was a nurse and now I'm trying to do cybersecurity, or hey, I was a teacher and now I'm trying to do whatever. And you'll see that, technology and cyber jobs pay so much more money than, teaching, or some wherever it is that they came from, and they'll get offered what seems to be a lot of money, but it may be very much so under the market salary for that position. So I think it's important that folks use their network to have mentors, to have people who have been in those positions that know what the salary band looks like, and knows what it is that they should be asking for, because I think as bad as it is to actually have the skills and be actually make it to consideration, is to get the job and then not be getting paid what you're worth because you didn't know your value, and you didn't ask for or negotiate what you're worth.
Yeah, I like now that just starting to see more companies that are having the salary ranges, which is good, because it's really to a company's best to show the salary ranges, because what happens if you get someone on, especially someone new, they come in underpaid, after a year or two, they may not be making those jumps the way they need to, and the only alternative is to go somewhere else.
Absolutely, and so what I've learned since getting into management, is that the salary band doesn't necessarily tell you what the information that you need to know, right? Most companies, they'll say, hey, maybe they'll be like, the salary band is between 100,000 and 200,000. And you're like, hey, I want to be closer to that 200,000 number. But then, when you go to have a conversation with them, or if you ask the recruiter, they'll be like, oh, well, we're looking to hire somebody around, maybe like the 120 range or 130, you know what I'm saying? And it'll be like, well, why is this range out here? And I think that what I've learned since being a manager is that, most companies, and my company, they call it range penetration, but they want basically to hire people somewhere around the middle of that salary band, so that they basically have room to grow. And rarely do they, unless you're an outstanding candidate, do they go outside of those, recommendations. Like if I even suggest that I want to bring in somebody at more than, that mid range, it's like, hey, I have to provide a justification for why. Is it because they're in an area where the market is higher, or whatever the case may be? And people just assume that when they're seeing these salary ranges, that means like, hey, that means I can get that much money. It doesn't necessarily mean that, but I think that having information to negotiate and knowing how that works is important for people, because otherwise they'll be like, hey, this range says it goes to like 212, I want 209, and they'll be like, no, you're definitely not getting that, because at that point then where are you going next year? They have to take that into consideration. What does the bonus situation look like? What does the increase look like for future years? If they bring you in at the top of the range, then clearly you're going to blow past that pretty quickly.
That's some great information. Thanks for sharing that. So why don't you tell us about Black Girls Hack, kind of how you started, what inspired that organization?
Absolutely. So I started when I was learning myself, first starting out about 5 years ago. I started Black Girls Hack basically just to share information and resources that I found, because I come from a period where books were like $300, and training courses are thousands of dollars, and I was like, hey, there's got to be a way to get these skills without breaking the bank. So I was sharing resources, low cost resources to folks who were trying to get into the industry. But then I was also, as I was learning, walking through like Try Hack Me and Hack the Box boxes on like Twitch and YouTube. And I was, as I was learning, I was teaching other people as well, because I was like, hey, let's do this. We need hands-on skills. Schools are not teaching these skills. How do you get them? So I was like, as I'm learning, I will work to, basically convey my understanding of the materials to other people so that they could also learn as well. And I think that for me, that was, how I got started. And over time, we got additional volunteers, we got additional people. We started working with a lot of different companies that provided a lot of different training platforms and certifications, for example. And we just started expanding because, I'm a red teamer and I'm interested in hacking, doesn't necessarily mean that everybody is in there. So Black Girls Hack, we offer, training programs for people who are looking to career change into technology and or cyber careers. And we provide, basically we have a zero to red team training program, which goes from zero to OSCP. So it's like, hey, I'm a nurse now and I'm looking to get into penetration testing. How do I get there? So it's an 18-month training program. We provide all of the training and all of the vouchers for them. They pay us a nominal fee. And then they basically just all they have to focus on is the training and getting the certifications and studying, and we put them with a group of other people that they can work together to get the skills that they need. But that's the model that we use for a lot of our programs, our training people to try to be able to enter the workforce so that we can get more diversity, have more underrepresented communities. But BGH is open to all. Anybody who wants to come hack with us is welcome to. We've got hands-on workshops that we run. I think they're 4 days a week now, but most of the time they're running 7 days a week. But we're in the process of fundraising now to look for some more funds for us to be able to offer more hands-on workshops to folks so that they can get the skills that they need to be able to help develop their portfolios and hone their skills.
Yeah, that's really nice. An 18-month program, that's very realistic, because you see some other programs sometimes maybe 6 months at the most, but 18 months, that's a good amount of time to be able to really pick up and learn some skills.
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to try to put them around a year, but what we found that is if someone's actually coming from zero and they don't have any foundation, they don't have, technology and cybersecurity skills, that we want to make sure that they have a solid foundation, because it doesn't make sense if we can somehow, teach them all of the things and they get to the point where they pass the OSCP and they don't have a solid foundation. There's a difference between, hey, this is an ideal world where, you're hacking on a happy path versus like, hey, here's a real world environment, like it doesn't necessarily look like anything that you've seen before on any of your practice environments. So we want to make sure that people have a solid foundation and that they're actually prepared for, to be able to enter the workforce.
Very good. And one of the things that you were kind of talking about, anyone's welcome and stuff, one of the things that really impressed me whenever you were running the village at the Girls Hack Village at DEF CON, it was really impressive that the space they give you wasn't a really big space. But the thing that really impressed me is the different groups that you invited in to share that space.
Yeah, but that's kind of the way that I move. They gave us a very tiny space, and we brought like a whole bunch of our nonprofit friends who didn't have their own villages, and we're like, hey, you can set up a table here, bring your swag, bring all of the things that you want to bring, because I think that we can work so much better together if we cooperate and we collaborate on things. I think that people assume like, oh my gosh, there's so many nonprofits, they're all doing the same things. The reality is that, a lot of us are not doing the same types of things. We may be mission aligned and mission oriented in terms of, we all want to increase diversity in the space to get more women, to get more underrepresented communities into the space. But the reality is, in terms of offerings, we all do different things. So, I am always trying to one, collaborate with other groups that are mission aligned with Black Girls Hack, but then also I want to make sure that people realize that there's a community. What I'm saying, like, you don't have to be a Black woman, you don't have to be underrepresented. I have so many people who are like, hey, I'm a cis white male, am I allowed to come and do all of the things? And I'm like, yeah, everybody's welcome to come and hack with us. The only line in the sand that I draw is that you can't be a jerk. But as long as you're not a jerk, everyone is welcome to come with us. And, I truly try to live by that, in terms of, if I'm having opportunities that I'm being put into rooms, I will invite my other nonprofit friends into those rooms because, again, I believe that we're stronger together.
I totally agree with that. And I've seen some of that. We've been fortunate enough to see some other groups in the community that do similar type of stuff. But as you mentioned earlier, Women's Cyber Jitsu, that's another group that I've been pretty impressed with. And I do like the way between your two groups, the way you offer training and stuff. But I'm really impressed that the type of programs that you're putting on. An 18-month program is pretty impressive. And then working on the OSCP, it's good that you're finding industry certifications that's going to pay off for someone when they get done. I mean, some Absolutely. Organizations, as someone might think this certified ethical hacker, CEH, but as well as I do, if you're trying to get a pen tester job, you're going to have a lot better luck if you've got the OSCP.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing about it is that we don't just have the red team version of that. We have the blue team version of it. We're currently in development for. We have the cloud team version. That's we have two of those cohorts that are currently underway, and we're also in the process of developing a blue team GRC and AI 12 to 18-month programs to focus on security zero to hero for each one of those areas as well. Because again, not everybody wants to, quote unquote, hack or do, pen testing or red teaming. Some folks are interested in other things. So, we have the different variations of these training programs to help people to get in and without, the high financial barriers to entry. But, we're only able to do that, through like sponsors that, provide training. Most of the training programs that we have, the courses that we choose, the training we choose, the vouchers that we choose for those programs. Some of them are dictated by the industry, like the OSCP, but then, some of those are, hey, we have training providers who are donating those or giving them to us at a discounted price. So again, we can bring it to our members in a low cost environment because, I think the only thing worse by not having the skills that you need to be able to get into cybersecurity or technology is not having the money to be able to take the things, and so we're trying to remove some of those financial barriers to entry.
Yeah, that's a good point. How expensive that could be. A lot of folks that are experienced like ourselves think of the expensive training courses as like the sand stuff. But, whenever you're not working, if you don't have a 6-figure income, it's kind of hard to afford things like the OSCP because those aren't very cheap if you're making less than 6 figures.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the training and not to pick on, them because, I think that they are, very much so one of the leading standards as far as certifications for red teaming and offensive security. But, their training in certification, I think is 25, maybe $2,000 to $3,000. That's a lot of money just for that one certification. And yes, it'll help you to be able to get jobs, but at the same time, it's like if somebody's trying to figure out how to be able to afford their food or or housing or whatever the case may be, what I'm saying? Like I don't want people to have to make those kind of decisions.
Yeah, that's great what you're doing there, and I really like the fact that you're sharing other things because one of the things when I talk to people that are interested in becoming pen testers is not to discourage them, but encourage them to check out the other disciplines within cybersecurity. You may find something that you like better. And a good story I like to share is one of my former coworkers when I worked at US Bank. Whenever he started US Bank, he was like on the help desk or in IT. He was taking SANS courses to get into digital forensics. So his family was investing money in him because I was wondering, how are you affording all this? Is it the company reimbursing you on all this stuff? And his family was investing in him and he's putting money into it himself. But he was going through these courses and he finally decided these digital forensics courses and decided he was going to take the GPen course that maybe that would make him be better at digital forensics. He took that GPen course, fell in love with pen testing, and ended up becoming a pen tester instead of digital forensics. So that was an example of someone getting exposure to something else and finding their true passion.
I actually went a similar route because, when I first started, I did my one of my master's, which is in cybersecurity, and then I was like, hey, I really want to do. There's a digital forensics class that was at Johns Hopkins that I couldn't get in because it was in a different school, and I was like, I really want to take this. And then I saw that there was University of Maryland had a digital forensics program, so I actually went and got a master's degree in digital forensics from University of Maryland, and I liked the the degree, but again, it wasn't hands on. It wasn't giving me what I needed in terms of like hands on experience. And I come to find out, like digital forensics sounds like cool. It helped me to become a better, I think better pen tester. But what I wanted to end up doing ended up being red teaming. Because I like that a lot better, and I think it was much more closely aligned with just my antagonistic approach to developers of the world.
Oh, very cool. That's good. Interesting to know more stories to share with other folks because it's just, it's the red teaming or pen testing stuff is just all over the place. And that's what you see. A lot of people, when they think cybersecurity, that's what they think. So they don't get the broader picture of all the different disciplines that are available.
Absolutely. I think that, folks, when they hear about cybersecurity, they hear about all of the sexy things. They're like, "Oh, I want to be a hacker. I want to be a pen tester. I want to, whatever the case may be." But there's so many different things in cybersecurity, and that was part of the reason why, although we started off like, "Hey, Black girls hack," yes, absolutely we do, but there are so many other things under the umbrella of cybersecurity that don't necessarily involve, per se, red teaming or offensive security, or what we traditionally think of about hacking. And I think all of those are all equally important in the ecosystem as far as like getting people who are, have diversity of thought and approaches to problem solving, and getting those folks into the industry. I think they're all equally as important in terms of, making sure that we're keeping the world safe.
Yeah, one of the things too for anyone listening that's considering a career in cybersecurity, there's a lot more jobs on the blue team side than there is on the offensive side.
I'll tell you what, there's also a lot more research on the blue team side than there is on the offensive side, because I actually started doing research about a year ago for my doctorate, which is in offensive security, using AI and cybersecurity education. And the amount of blue team research probably is 3 to 1 compared to offensive security. There's not a lot of people who are doing research on offensive security and AI space. And I think that's part of the reason is because, ethical hacking is considered to be a niche field at this point. And I don't necessarily think that that's the way it should be. But, when it comes down to it, like, when you talk about cybersecurity education, it's usually very, well-grounded in terms of policies and GRCs and things of that nature. But they don't necessarily get into like hands-on tools, for example, or the skills that you need if you're looking to get into the offensive security space.
Yeah, another thing just makes me wonder too, and kind of what your opinion is. Do you think the lack of red team uh, research may be because when people think offensive security research, they think CVEs?
Maybe. I'm not quite sure. I when I started looking to the space, I didn't know what to expect. But like I see a lot of research on blue team topics as it relates to cybersecurity and artificial intelligence, and they'll say oh, by the way, that there might be like some red team applications, or hey, there might be some offensive security applications of these things. But even if you go to any of these cybersecurity conferences and you look at like the vendor spaces, I think probably 80-90% of the folks that I saw at the expo at RSAC, they have some sort of AI offering for blue team, threat detection, for, running a SOC, for event management, for, various tools. But, when you're looking in the red team side, like, hey, what does this look like? There are some companies that are doing them, and there's some research into it, but there's not a lot. For the most people, the most thing that people see that's obvious to them when they think about cybersecurity, especially as it relates to AI, they think about the defensive applications.
So we've kind of covered Black Girls Hacks. Another thing we really wanted to speak on is SquadCon. So I was very impressed last year when I saw that the Girls Hack Village didn't get to come back to DEF CON, which I know a lot of us in the community was really, really disappointed over. But to see you all just not, just go off and that's good enough. You decide to do your own conference. Not only that, you do this in 2 months. Not only that, you're on the same days as DEF CON. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, well, the timing, I think part of what went into that was just because I'm petty, um, as a person. But it was literally, we had something to prove. They did not see the value in having a girls' village. They did not see the value in representing diverse groups. Most cybersecurity conferences, if you look at the speakers, if you look at the people who attend them, it's a very homogenous in terms of what that looks like, right? It's usually older white men,
Mm-hmm.
and the reality is that if we want to maintain competitiveness in the cybersecurity space, we need to start seeing more diversity in that space. And to do that, we need to start seeing, more women researcher, more women hackers, underrepresented communities that are not typically voices that are, heard in mainstream cybersecurity conferences. So, we said, hey, we're going to try to do this differently. And our tagline was like, hey, we're going to do our conference differently. We're going to, have diversity. We're going to have a variety of topics and a variety of speakers, right? Because it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, hey, you have, panels of 5, older white men. Like, you couldn't find one researcher that, could speak on this topic that was diverse, that was not a white man. And, so we're like, hey, we can do this differently. And there's value in having a space that women feel safe in, So that was, that's why I said, hey, we had something to prove. I absolutely love that our corporate sponsors, rallied behind us and helped us to make it possible in, less than 2 months with, if you've ever, worked in a company, getting somebody to write a check for thousands of dollars in less than 2 months is a hero feat. It was absolutely amazing that they were able to do that, and they were able to get it done in time for us to make the conference possible. So I think it was all through the support of the people who see the value in the things that we're doing, and think that the work is important.
Yeah, it was very impressive. And some of the sponsors you had, some of the big name sponsors, that was pretty amazing because you don't always see them, especially some I've never seen at a conference until yours. But it's pretty amazing what you all put together in 2 months. It was very amazing. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what things come together this year. I really like the venue. It's kind of funny because I thought your venue had more of a hacker vibe than DEF CON did, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was really cool. Like, I fell in love with the industrial event space last year when we had our conference there, and we had actually gone to FuzzCon there. Like, I think it was maybe in 2021. I think was my first Hacker Summer Camp, and FuzzCon was there, and they had their conference at the industrial event space, and I was like, oh, that space is cute. Let's see if they're available. And it turned out that they were available, which worked out for us because it gave us exactly what it is that we needed. It was big enough for us to host the 300 folks that we had there, and then also there were side rooms for people to do like capture the flags, and for us to host some other smaller talks as well. So it really worked out for us. But things and you've been there. Las Vegas is ridiculously expensive. It's super hard. But like I said, with our sponsors, we were able to get it done. So, I've really been impressed by the team in terms of pulling it together. And I'm so excited to see the things that are going to happen this year. We have someone who is a dedicated project manager for the conference now. So, I am not involved in all the day-to-day things as much as I was last year. And I am so excited, as I find out more things that are going on, the speakers who have accepted and decided to talk. So I'm super excited. Which plot twist, I heard that you were speaking with us.
Yes. Yeah, look forward to it.
Awesome.
You'll have the coolest stage of any conference I've spoke at. That was a really cool stage.
I like the stage as well, especially like the screen behind it. I thought that was super serious. So I really enjoyed the industrial event space. So I'm looking forward to us going back again this year. And one of our sponsors, Philip Wiley Show. So that's super exciting.
Yeah, it was exciting for me. This is the very first conference I've ever sponsored before. So
Yay!
yeah,
Look, we're making history out here.
Yeah, I couldn't have picked a better one too. So yeah.
Look,
So
I'm biased, but I agree.
I really like what you're doing because you can't show me another organization is doing more for training than what you all are doing. There's some other organizations that I'm fans of that do a good job, but I just haven't seen anyone put together 18-month programs and do all that and just try to help at low cost or free to members is pretty amazing. So
yeah, and that's exactly what we're going for. We want to be known as a training organization. We want people to know that we're out here, that we offer training at free to low cost, because I think it's important for us to be able to start to see more diversity in the industry. And realistically, I don't think it's a good look for people to be paying tens of thousands of dollars for boot camps, and I've seen like some of the profit sharing and other things that people do to sell their training. And again, I want to reduce the financial barriers to entry. I don't want people to have to choose between basic necessities and shooting for what I call world domination, right? You should be able to, move in the area that you want to move. And, the only thing that's preventing it is your ability to be able to get the work done and study it. And that's what we're trying to do.
And so here we are on June 3rd, a couple months off from Hacker Summer Camp, do you still have a need for sponsors for the conference?
Absolutely. So we're still looking for sponsors. We're still looking for speakers. We've got a bunch of folks that we've reached out to that have agreed to speak, and we've got some folks who have applied to speak. So we're still looking for topics, on a wide range of things. Could be from your experience in the industry, the experience of underrepresented folks, topics like AI, quantum computing, offensive security, things of that nature. We're still looking for folks to come out and speak about different things. We want folks to be able to get, cutting edge research and be able to learn new things, in addition to be able to network with really cool people.
And one of the things for anyone listening, post summer camp, then you are always needing people to help with these programs. So you're always looking for donations.
Absolutely. We are always looking for sponsors and donations. We're also looking for people to help with training as well. We are a volunteer organization. So, we would love if, people are like, hey, I've got an hour a month to give back to, if they wanted to help provide, training courses or, whatever the case may be to expose people to different areas within cybersecurity. We had someone a couple of years ago who taught a mainframe penetration testing course, which was super cool.
Okay.
We've had people who have taught bug bounty. We've had people who have taught, different areas of cybersecurity and different things. We're just looking to grow. We've done mobile penetration testing workshops at the past 2 years of our conference. Because again, we want to introduce people to areas they may not necessarily be familiar with to let them know that there are other things that are out there. So if you're like, hey, there's too many people in this area, I want to do something different. We want to provide them with the options to let them know what possibilities are.
Awesome. So we're getting down towards the end of the show. Is there anything you'd like to share that we haven't discussed?
Absolutely. So we've got scholarships that are open for SquadCon. So for folks who maybe have never been able to afford going to Hacker Summer Camp, we've got 4 scholarships that we just awarded. I think we've got a couple more that we're planning on awarding, and we're also still fundraising for scholarships to bring folks because it's important to network. Excuse me. It's important to meet people who are doing amazing things in the research area. And we provide the scholarship winners with $2,500 to cover their travel and hotel expenses for them to go to Hacker Summer Camp. And then we also provide them with tickets to Black Hat and Dine Initiative and SquadCon, so that they can be able to have the experience and be able to, go to the different conferences that are out there. But if there's any other conferences like besides Las Vegas or DEF CON that are interested in donating tickets to those, we'd love to have our scholars be able to attend, all of the conferences that are out there. But yeah, that's what we're looking forward to is just preparing for the second year of SquadCon 2024. Super
That's
exciting.
awesome. I can't wait. I'm more excited about that than any of the others.
Me too.
It was yeah.
But I'm biased again.
Yeah. But it's an awesome conference. Anyone should check it out. Some of the things I liked about it too, the venue was nice. I also liked that there wasn't the distraction like you see at some of the other conferences that are at casinos. You could get distracted and just forget what's going on. The lines for the food truck were pretty short, so you got your food fairly quickly. Nice roomy space. Temperature was good. Got to meet some really cool people there that I hadn't met, and was a great conference. So I encourage anyone to try to make it out and support, this effort. And if you haven't presented there yet, I highly recommend, putting in a CFP to speak there.
Yep. Our website is squadcon.me. Our CFP is open. We also have our call for vendors. So if you're a company and you're like, hey, I want to go and talk to people about my company, that's open as well. And then we're going to have some of our nonprofit community partners come out again this year and talk to them about the amazing work that they're doing as well. Because again, we want people to know that there's options out there and that the network doesn't necessarily have to begin and end with Black Girls Hack.
Awesome. And for the listeners, we're going to have the the social media links and the website and all that listed in the show notes, so it'll be easy for you to find.
Absolutely. Well, Philip, thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited that I got to, come and hang out at your new podcast in addition to your old one. So I appreciate you for all of your support.
Yeah, thank you. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you on. Like I said, it's always good to get to chat with you, and this is good, even though virtual. But I look forward to seeing you at Hacker Summer Camp and SquadCon.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see you at your talk again.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you for listening to The Philip Wiley Show. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. In the meantime, to learn more about Philip, go to thehackermaker.com and connect with him on LinkedIn and Twitter @Philip Wiley. Until next time.